Oh my, oh my. In frame? In frame? Hi, my name is Yana. I'm a modern Ajumma. This is everything I read in February. Okay, this month was busy, and somehow there are 14 books I read in the shortest month of the year. And I get asked a lot how I read so many, and all I can say is audiobooks, baby. Like, I listen to audiobooks while I'm doing housework, when I drive, at night, when I am too tired to read or look, at a print copy, but I can listen with my eyes closed. It's made a world of difference, quantity-wise. I read 7 Agatha Christie's alone, all on library audio. I read Agatha Christie as a child. She's been a lifelong obsession. I own and have read almost all of her work, but lately I've been revisiting them and I kind of disregarded them in my wrap-ups, like telling myself, well, I'm gonna make a separate video all on the Agatha Christie rereads I've done. So I'll just talk about them all in that video. And I really regret doing that. Like, I wish I just said a little something about each one of them as I read them in my wrap-ups. So I'm just gonna fix that mistake and quickly talk about them here. Crooked House by Agatha Christie, performed by Hugh Fraser. Yes, the main character is a dumb man, and we/Agatha are obviously the woman, Sophia. This is a classic Agatha Christie with a house, a large, colorful family, old grudges, money, old and young people with their varying perspectives and sentiments, more argument against nepotism. Not that the book explicitly makes that argument, just as a 21st century reader, you're coming up with that conclusion. It's a good story, it has a great ending. Though it has all of those classic Agatha Christie tropes and themes, this is kind of an odd one. Like, maybe it misses the mark on really shining a spotlight on each beat. Taken at the Flood by Agatha Christie, performed by Hugh Fraser. Another classic Agatha, with a dead rich patriarch, all of the money going to a young new wife with a large extended family left jilted. And everyone has their arguments. It's also an appeal for the middle class, saying like, we deserve this. Money should not just be for the proletariats. It's like an upper middle class British family versus a poor young Irish family. It also really talks about the people who left home for the war, like not just to the battlefield, but leaving that insulated nest for the whole war effort. Then coming back home and having those complicated feelings, like it makes those people feel really seen. It really shines a light on that experience, on that war experience. I really enjoyed this. 1-2 Buckle My Shoe by Agatha Christie, performed by Hugh Fraser. I recall it being much grander, like it's one of the big Poirots, though I still think the ending is quite grand, but again, more classic Agatha tropes. There's a nursery rhyme structure, a VIP character, there's a flippant young woman named Jane, there's that one bitchy old woman, communists versus capitalists, risky new ideas versus conservative stability. We've got an outrageous name like Mabel Sainsbury's Seal. The plot itself seems like all the other solid Agatha Christie's, but like without a huge wow factor. We've also got that bumbling policeman with his prejudices character happening, and maybe he's at fault for taking away that shiny veneer. Again, I've said this many times, Agatha Christie is just so much better at love stories than grand political schemes. Cards on the Table by Agatha Christie, performed by Hugh Fraser. We've got Ariadne Oliver. I love Ariadne Oliver. She's a recurring character of Agatha Christie's. She's described as a hot-headed feminist with substantial shoulders. Just little details like she changes up her hair because she doesn't really know how to do hair. There's a lot of like cultural Britishisms in here that I just don't really know what they mean. Like obviously it's got to do with card games. I have no idea what like how to play bridge, the rules of bridge. I have no idea what a Shropshire man implies. And there are some very contemporary seeming details in this as well, like anthrax is mentioned. Somebody says re, like in regarding. There's a great character named Mrs. Lorimer whose magnificent card memory shows women's skills and how it's ultimately wasted on things that are accessible to females, like card playing. And there are so many plot twists in this. Ultimately, it's just okay. Like, there's a huge oriental othering in here that's just really off-putting. Parker Pyne Investigates by Agatha Christie, performed by Hugh Fraser. These are short stories with a romantic nature, a lot of open endings, more Ariadne Oliver. We've got Miss Lemon in here, perhaps her origin story, lounge lizards. Like, ultimately, this is a fairy tale, like fairy stories collection where Agatha Christie is like self-soothing stories with like nice stories about damsels in distress who are rescued by intelligent, worthy men. Yeah, more Orientalism in here. Hugh Fraser pronounced resume. Oh, I don't want to forget. I couldn't find my copy of Elephants Can Remember by Agatha Christie, read by Hugh Fraser. Again, another Mrs. Oliver story. Her hairstyling struggles and general awkwardness. This one had a really intriguing plot. The later Agatha Christies have been killing it for me. There's abortion in this. Somebody is quote-unquote sexually attractive, but just the wigs, the dog, the nanny. The ending was a letdown. It was really obvious. Death on the Nile by Agatha Christie. This one was performed, the audiobook was performed by David Suchet, who is the actor who plays Hercule Poirot. Oh, his native accents are horrible. Like, they're horrible. You get the sense that he's like extremely proud of his ostentatious stereotyping. So the opening that I recall as being really great and immersive, not as compelling because of the racism. There's like a weird mom and son shipping going on. This is obviously one of the big Agatha Christie's, one that I recall enjoying tremendously. But this time, I really just delighted in like the character dynamics within this large cast. I marveled at the how done it, but I was really turned off by the racism. I read How Much Land Does a Man Need by Leo Tolstoy in this Penguin Little Black Classics, which felt like a taste of Tolstoy to kind of like put me back into my War and Peace read that I started back in September. And yeah, these are moralistic short stories. I just got the sense that Tolstoy is like a moral tease, maybe like Terrence Malick teasing plot in his films. Before, his face had borne the stamp of death, but now he had suddenly become alive again, and in that face I could see God. I finally finished War and Peace this month. I started it back in September when I took it with me when I went to Seoul, South Korea. I don't know what I was thinking. And yeah, just dipping into this helped get me back up on that moral high horse mentality going back into War and Peace. Yeah, this is a long epic that deserves its own video, which is coming. I'm just the editing guys. But nevertheless, the reading experience may be one of my most memorable because it really felt like I was carrying all of those characters, that whole world, with me over a long period of time. Like I temporarily lived in 19th century Russia for like work or something. There's a fictional element blended with fictional reality, with Tolstoy's opinions, platitudes, fiery indignations. 1,400 pages is no joke, and I totally understand if you look at this beast and you just don't feel ready for this time commitment. I do want to impart that this is a very easy read, not to mention like enthralling, captivating, immersive, memorable. Highly recommend. Little Labors by Rivka Galchen. In 2021, I read her 2 books, Atmospheric Disturbances and American Innovations, and I found them delightfully intriguing, intriguingly odd, and fascinating, interesting wordplay. And this is her book of essays, Musings of Life Post-Baby. She applies her same wonky, winsome writing to the absolute weirdness of motherhood. It reads like when a non-baby person has a baby. That incredulity, indignation. I find her as smart as Gia Tolentino, perhaps more relatable, deliciously offbeat, with a singular unique voice a la Moshfegh, Ottessa Moshfegh, but less graphic. This also feels like a pandemic baby, a lockdown book, but it's not. I had to check. It came out in 2019. But it's because all post-baby books are essentially lockdown books where your entire world has fundamentally changed and gotten way smaller, just staying at home all the time with your immediate family. And all your brain can really do for a time is to judge everyone around you and the observations you make. Yeah, I read it in one sitting one night. It was fun. In late August, a baby was born, or as it seemed to me, a puma moved into my apartment, a near-mute force, and then I noticed it was December, and a movie was coming out on what is sometimes called the day of the birth of our Savior. I sometimes shared the elevator with a woman who is very cheerful and mean. Matilda by Roald Dahl, I read with my son. I read a chapter or 2 every day for a week, and he finally insisted on stopping because he just found it too long and boring. He's just not a reader. But I wanted to continue, so I did. Her kinship with classic books, her general zest for life and learning is actually tear-inducing. The movie by Danny DeVito, very book faithful, which is that much more of a joy and a success. That sense of enjoying a kid's entertainment as an adult, like a Pixar movie, I got that sense. Except for Miss Honey's Cottage. The movie Miss Honey's Cottage is super uber romantic cottagecore, but book Miss Honey's Cottage is extreme poverty. After I read this, I had a nightmare that I didn't know how to add fractions, and then I woke up realizing I don't actually know how to add fractions. And just felt that inherent unfairness of childhood where you're expected to learn and know how to do so much, only to be told, so can a calculator. I read Animal by Lisa Taddeo via library audiobook, read by Emma Roberts. Her monotone California accent may be too perfect for this gruesome, very LA story. Her enunciation of breasts felt palpable. Her voice pushes, her performance pushes this towards sociopathic, accusatory. It made it that much harder for me personally, to empathize like I could with 3 women, but I still can. Animal is about a woman crushed by patriarchy, the male gaze, misogyny, that women should feel like XYZ are their priorities, and it just makes everyone unhappy and everything a miserable ordeal. Taddeo's writing, I think, feels like the serious version of Melissa Broder's funny bittersweetness. There's a pasta scene that is so disgusting, it'll push you towards a celiac diet. Sex made me feel pretty. The older the man, the more my specialty. I know when I meet God one day, it'll go well. I saw older men the way they still saw themselves. That was why they liked me so much. I was a solar panel, absorbing and refracting and re-energizing. I looked like the reason he married his wife, and not a girl like me. Needless to say, I was very disturbed by Animal, and so I read Ghost Lover by Lisa Taddeo. I read it on library audiobook, read by a full cast of people that I don't know, and was able to get a library print copy so I could wave it to you. So I can wave it at your face for this video. I had to continue with this after reading Animal to prove to myself my Lisa Taddeo hypothesis, which is, it's easy to say that she's obsessed with sex, superficiality, etc. But that's precisely what she's mirroring. It's subversive. She almost has like a missionary zeal to talk about, shed light on this pervasive scourge. In Three Women, she wrote, "One inheritance of living under the male gaze for centuries is that heterosexual women often look at other women the way a man would." And that's the prism through which she writes these narratives of women seeking power via sexual politics. None of her protagonists who are all female, have any real power over their own lives, nor are they villains or even anti-heroes, because simply put, they all operate under the system of the patriarchy and male dominance. Sometimes the most you could do to make yourself happy was to control another being. Sometimes when you eat too much at lunch, you have to be mean to a salesgirl. If you be nice to you, you get fat. I can't say I love or even like these books, because I don't know, nobody says that they love stories about sexual assault, or like they could if it was written in like a sugar-coated way with some overarching triumphant tone. But that is not how Lisa Taddeo writes, and I really do applaud her for that. I think she's a great writer, she's doing good work. So I guess I am a fan of Lisa Taddeo and do recommend all 3 of her books. I just can't say the word "I love this book." Like, I must say, between this and Animal, she really gets that white LA, the valley, the canyons correct. Or she gets LA right in her books. Last but not least, I read Couplets by Maggie Millner. I bought it because Jalen told me to, so I did. Like a beautiful, deciduous slut of language. Gorgeous writing, the essence of freedom and desire for satisfaction. But to be honest, a lot of this went over my head. This is not a casual read. This demands a reread. At another time, not on Valentine's Day when I read it, when I was super grumpy, nothing was going right that day, and I was feeling that Valentine's Day bullying, where you feel wrong if you don't feel anything other than love and romanticism, which this book, though it is about love and desire, is not about the kind that Instagram pushes on you most aggressively on February 14th. Though a slim book of poetry, a slow, intimate, careful reading is required. Yeah, I feel like I was scowling all of February, and I need to reread this when I'm not. Yeah, that was my February. It was really random, but that's how life fell for me this month. I got all the library holds in. I picked up random things from my shelves that just called to me at the time. I was book-fluenced. I happened to finally, for whatever reason, buckle down and finish War and Peace this month. Sometimes that's just what happens, and there's no connections I can neatly make. I hope you all had a great February, a great reading life, however random. Thanks for watching.